Kelly Abbott, artisan roaster and CEO of Unleashed Coffee. Thank you for joining us this morning for our first ever live Q&A that we're calling Coffee with the Farmer. Today's Q&A is our kickoff to our new Farmer Friday series that you can catch across our social channels every Friday. In this series, we'll be bringing you stories from the farm, featuring our growing partners at work and providing transparency for where your coffee comes from. If you're getting it from us, of course. You'll get to see behind the scenes look at our supply chain and how our farm to cup model empowers farmers and promotes environmental and social sustainability. And as a part of Farmer Friday series, we plan to go live with the farmer at least once a month. So today is the day. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Unleashed Coffee's co-founder and primary coffee farmer, William Murad. Good morning, William. How are you?
Good morning. Very good and excited to be with all of you.
So I wanted to start with a little bit of history. Your family settled the farmland back in 1840, and then they planted the first coffee plantation in 1875. Can you kind of share with us this morning a little bit about the history and evolution of the family's farm?
Of course. So I am the 10th generation in the family, right, of farmers. And when Brazil was being colonized by the Portuguese government allowed people to start going inland. They needed them to open roads. And then for every X amount of miles that they would open in roads, they would be entitled to a plot of land. So the first farm or the first plot of land dates back to 1840. That's when my ancestors, right, opened roads in that region of the country. And that's when the farm started, and it went from generation to generation until today's date. So we have the same piece of land, and of course started being divided by family acquisitions and so on. But that's how it all started back in 1840. 1875, it's when a historian close to us found out that the family planted its first coffee plantation, bringing the seedlings from another state, from São Paulo, to Minas. And so that's where the 1875 date comes from.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. I know when I'm out at farmers markets and I'm talking to people and I tell them that, you're 9th and 10th generation farmers and you've been there doing that for so long, they just get really excited about that. So can you talk to us a little bit about the different coffee varietals that you currently grow at the farm and how that's changing? I know you have an experimental plantation and the fun that you're having with that.
Yes. Can I have 3 hours to talk about it? Okay. I promise I'll spend no more than 3 minutes. So when I started I remember going to the farm since I was 6 years old. With 8 years old, I started working at the farm. My dad taught me, so work is very important. You have to earn your money. So you work all day. I'm going to pay exactly what I pay to all our collaborators, right? All our employees. And so I started with cattle, and then I did not have any coffee plantation until I was 16 years old. And until that point, we primarily had only 2 varieties at the farm. We had the Catuai, or maybe 3, Catuai yellow and Catuai red, and there are a lot of subspecies there. We're not going to get into that level of detail richness today. And then we had the Mundo Novo. And so I chose a kind of a variety species of the Mundo Novo, which is called Acaya, which I still have today. It's a favorite from many people. But it's an interesting story there. It turned out to be not a good choice for the commodity market because it's a plantation that only yields every other year, extremely demanding when it comes to fertilization. So really not worth it from a profitability standpoint. And then I did some research, had help from my dad and from the industry. And then the second plantation was the Catuai red, Catuai yellow, and also another Catuai yellow, which I really love to today's date. Catuai red is arguably my favorite. It's I call it my pet species because it was the first one that I really fell in love with, and I still do. And I love the fact that you can change completely how it tastes based on its roasting profile. And then I'm going to fast forward to today's date that we have 17 different varieties. So when we started Unleashed Coffee, the idea was, okay, we're no longer just in the commodities market. Right? We're looking for quality. We want to have nothing but the best coffees there. And so today we have 17 different varietals, some better than others, some produce more than others, some are resistant than others. But yeah, it spans from those two initial Catuais and the Mundo Novo all the way to the latest varietals that I got directly from the government that just became available, and we're testing them. And of course, everything is not generically modified, right? It's just species which crossbreed from all these coffee species. And it's very exciting. And of course, right, you go through struggles. We have some challenges to some of the varietals, but I just love it because every single one of them has its own flavor profiling. I like to say that they have their own story, and every year it changes. Right? Remember, no irrigation. We call it a zero water waste farm, so we don't use any water to irrigate or process coffees. It's just the regular rainfall, and it's all sun dried. So the weather plays a very big role at our farm. And yeah, so I'll just stick with the 3 minutes.
Well, here in California, right, we're having a horrible drought again. It seems to be pretty regular now. Yeah. That's like our new client.
So do in Brazil. Yeah.
So how does that affect the yield when it's a drier year?
Substantially. So coffee is actually very resistant to drought. However, it has to rain at the right time. And the right time is really on Q4, on every last quarter of the year. That's when the coffee will bloom, and then when you know if those flowers will turn into cherries or if they're just going to be aborted and dropped. And then, of course, you need rain on Q1 of the following year for the cherries to grow. And we have not had either one of those. It's been very challenging. And probably some of you who follow the market, the coffee prices, you're probably amazed. If you look at the graph this week, it's incredible how the prices have just skyrocketed. And it's really a combination of drought and frost that happened in Brazil. Is very unusual, and it might happen again next week. So a lot of instability at the moment in the coffee market for us farmers, especially. Some regions severely affected. Hopefully, the upcoming frost will not be that bad, although they say they may be worse. Thankfully, we were not affected at our farm. Our plantations at high elevation. It's a very dry area, so not close to any large body of water. We have not been affected by the frost. Of course, it will affect somewhat the plantations, but nothing got burnt. If you guys probably go to Google and type 2021 July frost in Brazil, you're going to see some sad pictures of what has happened there.
Mm. So speaking of not great things that could affect coffee crops, how has COVID-19, the whole pandemic, affected the business?
That's a good question. So again, I'm going to speak for ourselves. And so we made a decision a few years ago for reasons that will probably stay for another call, to, instead of bringing temporary workers to work with us, we decided really to embrace the people who work with us year round. And there would be no other way to get that done but to mechanize as much as we could. And the mechanization brought two big advantages there. First, we could have those employees or collaborators or treat them like family work with us year round, right? And that's what happens. Additionally, we can really continue improving quality, right? Because the machine will tell you, will do exactly what you've done. what you've asked the machine to, or configure the machine to do. Whereas when we would have harvest or people working with us, temporary workers, wait a minute, I tried it so many times. I rewarded them better than the market rate. I would ask them to do things the way I wanted them to do. And just, I always 10, 20% will never execute the way. So mechanization really solved that problem for us. And I think that really helped with our COVID handling. So neither my family nor all our employees, collaborators, they got infected. So nobody got sick. It's just fantastic. As far as operations go, it has been smooth because of the machines. That's why I mentioned it early on. So we can plan things ahead and execute things better. However, production costs have skyrocketed. Fertilizer prices have doubled, sometimes almost tripled in price. Just the harvester, of course, a huge machine, tons of moving parts. Just to give you guys a flavor of how bad things are, just a small piece of a silicone part that I buy for that machine. I bought it 4 months ago and I bought it last week again. Same everything, right? Same company, same supplier, same brand. It went up 50% just in a little over 3 months, right? So less than 4 months. So that's what we're seeing right now. Inflation. So whoever is living in inflation denial, think again, talk to other people. We aren't. So COVID, answering your question now in one sentence, no health problems, thankfully, but tremendous inflation over the last 12 months.
And of course, we saw earlier this year, normally it takes 45 days for the shipments to come from Brazil to California, and it took better part of 3 months with a big question mark of when are they actually going to get it here on the ship.
Yeah,
right?
so that's a good one. So yeah, it took twice as long, twice as much, and multiple times phone calls and emails back and forth, getting things done. I tell you that the good thing about it is I got to know so many new people because we had to change absolutely everything, right? And since I handle the entire process myself, from the coffee leaving the farm in a container all the way to picking it up here, right? I even had to do it myself. Now we laugh about it. It was fun, but oh boy, it was nerve wracking to not have control over the importation process this year.
So let's talk about that. The Unleashed model is obviously it's farmer direct, and there is no middleman. It's you and it's me, and that's what it is.
Sure.
And originally it was you and Valerian, right, who was your roasting partner. So do you want to share with folks what made you decide to start Unleashed Coffee and doing this model in particular? In the coffee industry, obviously there's lots of room for middlemen, and you didn't want to use any of them. Why?
Well, I'll spin this into I'll keep it on the positive note, right? Of course, we face challenges, so first, I think it's important to address there's a huge gap between the farmer and the farmer beliefs and the consumer, or roaster and the consumer. The farmer always thinks, or most of the time thinks he has the best coffee ever. That coffee should be exported, that it's just not being exported because the middleman is just taking advantage of him and the system. That's not true, right? A lot of people produce good coffee, but when you go into the specialty coffee market, which is the market that's going to reward you for quality, it's a whole different ball game. Right? So the farmer needs to up his game to get there. Now the challenge is, of course, quality involves costs. Right? So if you go above and beyond to produce specialty coffee and you don't find a buyer for it, you will lose money. And most farmers, they need last year's crop to finance, right, next year's harvest or next year's whole year round. And that's one important thing to consider. The quality of the coffee that you're drinking right now the handling of it started 18 months prior to me handing the coffee over to you. 18 months, not just 1 year, it's 18 months. So a year and a half. So for the farmer, it's very challenging because the farmer needs that money and needs to make a profit, of course, to keep things afloat. But if you go to the specialty coffee and you don't sell that coffee, then you're dead in the water. Now, on the roaster side, right, you guys, you're approached by middlemen and a lot of sellers that will tell you wonderful stories. But unfortunately, many times they're storytellers. they don't really execute the narrative, right? And I'll leave it there. So my idea initially was, okay, first of all, I'm clear that we need to improve our processes to move from commodity to specialty. Right? It's just theory. It's just quality. You have to improve it. But I also understand that in order to make that viable, I need to find customers, right? And I need to do it in the best way I can. And I need to invest in this not as a farmer, right? But as someone who thankfully works on another industry, right? And has a different income that can be rerouted to the farm. And that's what I did. I just wanted to bridge that gap. And as you said, without any middleman, because unfortunately, most middlemen, there are good ones out there, but most middlemen, they're just looking at dollar signs. And that doesn't work for me. But so it all started that way. And I met Valerian, the co-founder, at a Specialty Coffee Association conference back in Seattle, back in 2014, if my memory serves me right. And so 13 or 14, I think. Anyways, So we started talking, and it was a coincidence. And he said, "Hey, well, where do you live?" I live in San Rafael. "Oh, I live in Fairfax. So we're neighbors, and we should get together." So he invited me over, and I brought my coffee, and I talked to him about it. And he just loved the idea of bridging that gap and being also a roaster in Europe, right? He just loved it. And that's when it all started. And from there to today, I've remained committed. Really, it's not just sustainability, right? It's not like being certified. Certifications are good, but they don't really solve the problem in many cases, right? And so I remain really committed to take care of everybody from beginning to end, right? As we had in our mission there, to improve the quality of the coffee and the knowledge of people and how, passionate about doing what they do. I just wanted to get better, right? And today I'm seeing it. The folks who work with us at the farm, they are as committed as we are. Every once in a while, I get phone calls to our manager there, my good friend of mine, childhood friend. He's on top of the tractors. He's calling me and said, "William, this is happening. What should we do?" Or "I did this, and are you okay with it?" Or just to give me an update. I love that. It's you can tell like they're so committed. The other day they were harvesting coffee overnight. They went nonstop, and wow. It's just fantastic. I'm glad to be sharing these details with you and with everybody because it is important. Most farmers. Will not have this ability, right? My parents, they are very capable, amazing people, but there's so much bureaucracy to get coffee out of Brazil that a typical farmer couldn't do it. If I wouldn't have the IT skills, business skills, all the study that I've done throughout the years, I wouldn't make it either. So it's extremely challenging. So we do need, the farmers do need some middlemen. Cutting the middleman completely, it's challenging. So that was my challenge. How can I do it, right? And the answer is yes, right? We've done it. But on the flip side, it's like not every farmer
can.
So the work of a few other people is very important, right, to make sure that that gap is bridged.
Right. So what's happening right now at the farm? So maybe let's walk through, you said it takes 18 months.
Yes.
What is it? What do those 18 months look like? I mean,
Yeah.
I know you just got back from Brazil for harvest, but we won't see that coffee here in the States until December, January, February.
That's correct.
So how's that process go?
Perfect. So well, let me answer first what's happening today. And today we are harvesting coffee. We're still harvesting this year's harvest. It's the busiest time of the year for us. And we have two different crews. One crew harvesting one plantation, the other harvesting another, different machines. It's nonstop. Our patios are full. There's coffee being dried everywhere on the concrete patios there, completely full. But everything's going well. That's today's state of the farm. As far as the 18 months process, the soil where we are at is very acidic. So you have to start handling that acidity a few months prior to even start fertilization, right? Organic fertilization. It has to start early on because if you do it at the same time, one process affects the other. So that's one thing that has to happen the prior year. And the second is when harvesting, it damages the trees, right? So the harvesting procedures are very important. So much so that I'm very happy that this year we had a line of people waiting for us to harvest their coffee because they come to our farm, they see how well we have done it, that we've really mastered the process of harvesting. Mm-hmm. And they look at our plantation, they look at theirs, like mine looks so much worse post-harvesting than yours. So what's the secret? Right? And so we tell them it's a combination of things, but harvesting parts, it's like, could you harvest ours? And you say, well, when we stop, because the harvesting happens non-stop until all our concrete patios are full. Then once the patios are full, then we have to pause. Right. So when we pause, then we go and harvest for our neighbors.
Oh, that's nice.
And so back to the 18-month process, the state of the tree matters. You know, when you're harvesting, you're shaking the trees, you may shake the root system of that plant. The plant may lose a lot of leaves. All those things matter. So typically we harvest coffee starting June, right? So mid of the year. And the work really starts on the previous, January of the previous year, because that's when you know if that plant bloomed and if those flowers turn into cherries or not. And so the care changes. So from that moment all the way to next year, next harvest, right, it matters. And if I would consider drying, storing it, milling it, the post-milling process as also being important, which they are, we would add another 4 months to it, at least 4 months to it, right? So 18 months, it's from handling the plant in the best way possible to the point that you have the coffee harvested in your patio.
Awesome. So they're harvesting, it's on the patios right now. What's next?
Yes.
How long does it stay on the patio, and what happens between now and when it comes at the beginning of next year?
Beautiful. So since we do just sun dry, and sometimes what we do, we have a mechanical dryer, so a huge cylinder that holds tons of coffee. So sometimes at the end of the drying process, just to make room for new yields, then we put all the coffee that one lot, and again, right, we have many dozens of different micro lots, we don't mix anything. So everything's separate. So we put that separate lot there at the mechanical dryer at a very low heat, so we don't scorch the coffee. So it dries as if it would be drying under the sun. We don't cut trees down, don't cut forests down. We use the coffee husk to power the fire, right? So it's sustainability at its best.
Right.
And after that coffee is dried, then we say that we let it rest. And the resting process takes approximately 1 month. And it makes a big difference. It's really no joke. When you put it on storage bins, huge red storage compartments, you let the coffee there and it just equalizes. When you dry and mill the coffee immediately after, it has this bit of a bitter aftertaste. It's just too fresh. I would maybe if you would try like extra virgin unfiltered olive oil, really strong. So that's that bitterness. So you want that 1 month of equalization of resting, so the coffee can really settle, equalizes the temperature, the drying, right, the humidity levels, and then after that we mill it. And after milling, then is the post milling, right? So there's the sorting by screen size, the densimetric sorter, and then the electronic sorter. And I just love when people post on Facebook, oh, look what I found on this coffee bag that I ordered, and they show like pieces of metal, stones. I mean, if we have these stoners, right, on machines, our coffee don't need it. Right?
No.
It's as clean as it gets. I'm sure you never found any.
I've never found anything bad, and anything but coffee in a coffee bag.
Exactly, and you will not, because we're really meticulous, right? I've shared this with you in the past. We, after the coffee is milled, we do another 10 processes up to the point it becomes unleashed coffee, let's say, right? There are 10 processes, 2 screen sorters, 4 densimetric sorters, and 4 electronic sorters that a coffee goes through, so it can get nothing but the best.
So how much specialty coffee do you do as opposed to how much commodity coffee?
10%.
10%.
Can we do more? Yes. Will we do more? Eventually. But for example, a year like now, honestly, with the coffee prices going, the skyrocketing, and there will be a shortage actually. You know, if you ask me, what my prediction is, coffee prices will continue going up this year. And if next week's frost, there are actually 3 frosts that are projected to happen in Brazil. If they indeed happen, you may see prices going through the roof, like literally. So these next 2 weeks are going to be very critical for the market, and it will really dictate how we're going to do things. Logistics, as you said, the COVID has disrupted it substantially. It has been tough. You know, I spent. Oh, it was very stressful to bring the coffee this year. It was really challenging, really challenging. I did it because I don't give up on anything. If you would ask me, okay, was it worth it? If I would look at it from a financial perspective, I would say no. But I do it for the pride, for the family, for everybody, just for the morale. People let the farm, they remain committed, and so do I, and hopefully all of you. But yeah, it goes year by year. We want to improve the percentage there, but again, right, it's difficult. In my case specifically, I wish I would be working with coffee only, right? So I would have more time to find buyers and more people to buy from us. But I can't, right? I mean, you guys see my office here. The whiteboard is clean because I cleaned it before the meeting. Otherwise, you'd be seeing tons of IT stuff there. I'm doing my best what I can. But yeah, we've been steadily increasing our specialty coffee production ratio versus commodity, and that's how we plan to keep it going.
I kind of feel like your family's farm benefits greatly because you had the opportunity to come to the United States and do some IT stuff. I feel like that's a big component that a lot of other family farms don't have. And so
yes.
I think that really has made a difference for your export business.
That's true. It does need some outside knowledge to bridge that gap. But the credit's all to them, right? The credit's how they raised me, right? How they put me to work when I was 8 years old. Today they would probably go to jail, right? Child labor. It was not forced. It was willingly. I wanted to do it. But it's just how they were raised. They showed so much commitment, like how much they love. My sister and I. They do everything for us. They've done everything for us. So now it's time for me to give it back, right? To do everything I can for them, and that's really how I see this. I'm just a vector. I'm doing what I can, my best for my family, our collaborators, right at the farm. They're family too. I see them as family, and they feel like it, which is fantastic. And yeah, it's just it's really a labor of love, right? Some people ask me, it's like, why are you doing all this? You can't do, like, you're doing enough IT, like you're working already 8 hours a week. Why do you need to work 100? And it's not about work. It's just about what I love doing. And this is it. It's what I love doing.
That's awesome. So 2 more quick questions, because we are running out of time. But
Sure.
Briefly earlier, you had mentioned something about certifications, right? And I do get the question all the time, are you guys organic? Are you non-GMO? And, are you rainforest compliant, blah, blah, blah. Talk to us a little bit about that. How beneficial are those certifications? Are you doing those things with or without certifications?
Yeah. So all our processes are at par with any certification. Right? We are certified in Brazil by the Brazilian government, and so we are at par with all those. Do I have the labels? No, and the reason is very simple. It's just not cost effective. But I do understand that, unfortunately, people are associating sustainability with the label, not with the processes. So eventually I'm going to have to get the label as well. But as far as what we do at the farm, what I tell people is very simple. Just if you look at the historical pictures of the farm, 4 decades ago, 3 decades ago, 2 last decade, and this decade, you see progress. Right? So there's no depletion. It's conversely, it's the opposite there. You see more green areas. The natural forest that we have are growing. Like this time I went to the farm, I was surprised. I was walking the plantations myself. Mm-hmm. Just this armadillo just standing in front of me, looking at me like we were best friends. It's like, this is crazy. I have actual footage. He let me record him. And so it's like wild animals. And anteater, those are endangered species. They are couples at our farm. And I've met with 2 of them in 2 separate occasions, just walking on the fields. All the birds and wild animals, cheetahs that we don't want because they come and they attack our chickens, and it's not good. But wolves, you just see it. And when it comes to people who work with us, it just like we don't have, like, as I said, temporary workers. People work with us year round. If you go there, talk to them, just like ask, right? You would ask, how many years have you been with them, right? Like with William's family, and do you plan on leaving? And the answer is like many years, and I don't plan on leaving, because we take care of them, right? So we do it everything that you hear best from certification. We do it. Organic certification, we're not organic. As far as having the certificate, we would have to change a couple of steps in order to probably get a certification. But the main challenge with the organic certification is, first, the cost. There's a fixed cost regardless of the size of the plantation. Mm-hmm. And second, organic coffee only makes sense, certified organic only makes sense if you can sell the entire crop to the specialty coffee market. And you have, so for us, it's just not viable. It's not worth it. But I would like to end that question with what we do at the farm. So my family lives there, right? My
Mhm.
parents live there. I there's a very good chance that I'm gonna retire and go there. So we live off the land, right? We drink water from our water springs, which spring close to coffee plantations. We eat vegetables, everything, like a lot of things that we eat are from the farm. So it's on our best interest,
Right.
right, to take care of that, to take care of us, to do not poison us. So that same commitment, of course, that we have with ourselves, and I have with my family, and we have with all of you. So to me, it's not really about the label; it's about what we do. And I
Right.
can assure you that if you take our coffee to any testing lab, whether it's Sacramento or you name it, you would be pleased with the results.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Last question. Uh, is there anything new that we should be expecting in the next harvest for 2021's harvest, 2022's delivery?
Um, the answer is yes. I like to keep it to myself because I
Okay.
like to experiment those things, right? And experimentation means how I'm gonna combine the some of the varieties to create the farmer's choice, let's say. And you're always learning, right? The I can share one new thing. The
Okay.
Akaya is going to be back in stock
Oh, great.
after 4 years. It's going to be back in stock. So we're going to have the Akaya there, and it's beautiful. It's huge, huge cherry. It's going to be the most good looking coffee of all of them. And there was one plantation this year that I was amazed with how sweet the cherries were. I love eating right the coffee cherries, like sucking the mucilage from it. And you only get to do that when you go to the plantation, right? Because you
Right.
cannot buy coffee cherries in the grocery store to eat. And I just love it. It's delicious. And this plantation was like, wow. I wasn't planning on bringing that under the FTF label, but as soon as I tried, it was like, oops, that's it. I'm bringing this one. So there will be that new one there, but I'll hold the name for now. And
Okay.
I'm working on a blend of micro lots.
Nice.
I think it's gonna be a home run. So yeah, that's what I have in mind at the moment. We're still harvesting, right? So there may be more things. This is based on my last trip, everything that I've seen, learned, tasted, my expectations, and right, it's fantastic. Things change every year. Our pea berries, right? The pea berries this year blew my mind. I got it wrong in the cupping. There was I cupped 16 different coffees, right? And it's not easy because they're all similar somewhat, right? Come from the same farm. And the pea berry was the only one that I got wrong. I thought the pea berries were a much higher quality lot that we had there. And then when I flipped them, it's like pea berries, like unbelievable. Because last year I wasn't happy with it. It was fine, but there was nothing extraordinary. It was just an
Right.
ordinary specialty coffee. This year was amazing. Like if you, I don't know, maybe I will put you at this spot there. I don't know how you roast it now. I think you probably do medium roast, right?
Yeah. Medium roast. Mhm.
Yeah. I do my own roast, my for my own consumption. I go very light. Oh, it's delicious. It's really
Okay.
good.
Maybe I'll try a light roast on it
Yeah.
then. Maybe that'll be the next roaster's choice, a light roast pea berry.
There you go.
Well, William, I really appreciate you coming on this morning and giving us some of your time. I know you're super, super busy with your day job, but it was really great to do this, and I'm looking forward to doing this. I think we're gonna shoot for the third Friday of every month. That's what we're going to try, but I'm going to be taking all of this information and all the pictures that you took when you were in Brazil last, and we're going to make this series for Farmer Fridays so that people can really kind of see this behind the scenes viewpoint of what happens with the coffee before it gets here. So a lot of people just pour their coffee in their cup and they're like, I don't know where it comes from. And so I think this is a really great perspective for people. And, I don't know how many people really know some of the inequities that happen in the coffee market. And so I think it's really beneficial for people to see it from the farmer's perspective and to know that when they buy a bag of Unleashed coffee, that they really are making an impact on your family's farm in Brazil. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll do it again next month.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, from my side, really, thank you for the opportunity. I just, I'm an optimist, right? And I don't like to complain about things. I like to solve problems. So I really want people to see even these negative subjects that we touched, see the good from it, right? See how this has changed our lives. And if I would tell the story, the details of what got me into starting Unleashed Coffee, I would start crying here because it's a very sad story that turned out into a beautiful outcome, but which I may tell you eventually. But it's challenge. But focus on the optimistic portion of much everything, right? My message to all of you is, really try to see beyond the labels, right? Try to really find out the story, right, of that coffee, if it's really representing what the label represents. So if I would just leave with one sentence, try to see beyond the label or the labels. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody. Pleasure being here.
Thank you. We'll see you next month.
Bye.
Bye.